Why do we think that talking about out-of-the-body experiences or the so-called astral projection is important at all? I didn't know anything about astral projection until I was about 35, when I first met the so-called Gnostic movement. And that is when not only I was told about the existence of astral projection, but I also had quite a few experiences. So to me, a whole new world literally opened up. And on one hand, I was convinced that the people bringing this message to me were telling me a lot of truth, because this was true. And on the other hand, I started to see that new techniques exist to actually move into a different dimension, which means you can explore a virtually unlimited amount of places and talk with beings that are not necessarily human. So it's a fantastic threshold onto something new. At the same time, I found that this gave me, and not only me, basically everybody that was in that movement, a reason to investigate things that we cannot discover here through different means. So everybody was pretty enthused by this possibility. And by some mysterious reason, at the beginning of our membership in the movement, each of us had a few experiences. And then all of this went down until a few years later, basically nobody had experiences at all. So several mysteries were living together in this, around the astral projection and the astral world in general. At first, it was so easy that basically it was like a gift that we received. And we didn't really need to work very, very hard to find ourselves awake in the other world, and then to simply desire to go somewhere and find ourselves in that place, or express the wish to meet somebody and be face to face with that person or being or master. So at first we were encouraged to go and meet the masters of the Gnostic movement. And we did so, and many of us, like me, we actually met them. We had the opportunity to have a small conversation or to ask a question. Then these experiences didn't last very long. Normally they finished at the minimum strong emotion, or if something happened in the physical body that was calling you back, etc. But even a 1-minute experience in the astral world can be very rich and bring you a lot of contents and emotions. Normally they are pretty unforgettable. So it doesn't have to last for a whole day to leave you a very, very strong mark. What do we know about the astral world? There are theories which tell us that it's just one layer above the etheric world, which is one layer above the physical one. And that's one layer below the mental world, and then there are other layers on top of them. So it's one of the several floors in the building of reality, so to speak. And that we do have an astral body, or at least an embryo of the astral body, which may be more or less developed. Based on what? Well, the work we have done to build it, some say. Others say we have it and that's it. So we don't have to work in order to build it. Here comes our friend Sandra. Welcome on board, Sandra. Hope you can hear us.
Hi, yes, I can.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Just take a seat. So we were saying that some authors say we do have an astral body. Some others say we have to work in order to build one. And that is connected particularly with self-remembering. So all the moments of presence, of feeling oneself, add a brick to our astral body. Others say you have it because it's your birthright. Which one will be true? We don't know yet. Anyway, let's say the upside and the advantages of being present are so many that even if it didn't build our astral body, I would do that anyway. So, what about the astral world around us? Again, there are different ways to explain that. Some say it's like a copy of the physical world, plus a lot more above, below, from heavens to hell. There's all sorts of things in the astral world. And that based on your vibrational level, we might call it, we tend to end up in one of these levels. So if we spend a day in a rage and cursing, we will normally find that our dreams are also on a low level. On the other hand, if we spend a day of meditation or watching nature and feeling one with everybody, we're likely to go higher. But that's not just the effect of a single day well spent or spent badly. That is in general a reflection of where we are in our path of development. So there are schools of thought, for example, certain psychologists or psychoanalysts that will say that dreams come to suggest a change in your psychology. Some others say they represent the fulfillment of your wishes. You may have seen examples of one and of the other. Then, of course, there are lucid dreams, which are a way to enter an astral projection from a different door, so to speak. So a lucid dream is, by definition, a dream where all of a sudden you go, ooh, I'm dreaming. This is not the physical world. Then the next question should be, okay, so what do I do now? Because, of course, you are not obliged to continue with the script that was going on until that moment of realization. All of a sudden, you realize. So if you were on a train, for example, and you realize, oh, this is a dream, you're not forced to continue until the next stop. You can fly away or make the train disappear. This is one of the big differences between the astral world and the physical world. So in the physical world, to build a house, it takes a lot of materials, months of work, or weeks if it's a very clever architecture, a lot of money as well. While in the astral world, if you really wish the house is there, the house will be there very quickly. So it's a very plastic type of reality where your thought can mold it and create or make things disappear pretty easily. Now, of course, you're not alone in the universe, or are you? Well, let's assume for a moment that although everything is one, we have enough individuality that we feel that we exist alongside with other beings. So if other beings are in the astral world while you are as well, we have to admit that there will be some degree of overlapping of what they want and what you want. So you can't really undo the universe and recreate it completely just by yourself. You have more of a control over the local reality, so to speak, what is around you, and to a lesser degree over the rest. Now, I would say the more you are developed as a being and the more your power will extend. So, for example, if you have developed your subtle bodies to a large degree, then your sphere of influence may be a lot wider. So you may find better descriptions of this just in terms of how large is, say, an astral body, a mental body, or a causal body, the famous Atman, Buddhi, and Manas, so the superior bodies, which are more on the divine side. And the more you connect and develop with these higher parts of yourself, then the more your influence may be felt, let's say, at a distance in the astral world. But let's go back to normal beings like we might be currently. So you may expect to exercise your will and see a result happen. This is the fantastic side of the astral world. On the other hand, things may not last very long. So you build something and then it may go away quickly as well. So it's not guaranteed that what you build today, you will find tomorrow if you have another lucid dream. So let's close the parentheses and go again to what is a proper astral projection. So we said one way to enter the astral world consciously is indirectly. So you start from an unconscious dream and then it becomes conscious. We will talk about techniques to make that happen. The other one is you lie in bed, you practice certain techniques, and they allow you to go out of your physical body and feel alive and active in a different container, which is not your physical body. In fact, you may look down and see somebody in your bed. Don't worry, it's just you. But that's your coerce part, that is the, say, the physical body. So going out of the body in this way takes more effort for my experience, but is also a lot more dramatic in effect, because you will not forget easily this experience. The two ways converge into what we call astral projection, because it is our understanding that whichever way you go through, the result is the same. You are conscious in a higher dimension, and you can exercise your willpower to make things happen, to move around, to find an answer to your questions, to know other beings, and move to places which are completely out of reach of your physical self. What do you do when you are in the astral world? Well, that's largely up to you. So what I have seen is normally that the more you keep yourself busy, for example, having a program of things you want to do in the astral, the more it's likely that the experience develops into something longer and fruitful. If you just hang around and wonder what to do, it's easier that you are sucked back into your physical body. Normally, as far as I've seen, the difficulty is not going back. The difficulty is staying out. Some say that there is an inherent danger in visiting the astral world. And I would like to bring a couple of elements to this topic. First one is, there are at least 3 large groups that I know of that have organized visits into the astral world by big numbers of people. So one group is called the Canterbury Project, and that's described in a book called Astral Travel by Gavin and Yvonne Frost. They had hundreds of people that had this task of projecting into the astral world and then searching answers for specific questions. For example, can you go into the future? How far can you go? Can you go in the past? Can you talk with other beings? Can you observe what happens on another planet, etc.? So they gathered a sort of map of what is on the other side. They didn't have any casualties, so to speak. Another large group is that organized by Robert Monroe. As some of you know well, Robert Monroe was an entrepreneur in the United States. He was a sort of an engineer and had a company taking care of broadcasting stations and production of TV and radio programs. He was looking for ways to relax people through the use of sound, and he stumbled upon an interesting discovery that certain types of sound could really help you to achieve a different state of consciousness. So this is a technique that was called the hemisync, and gave birth to a program called the Gateway Program, whose purpose was to help people achieve different states of consciousness and discover the answer to different questions about their own life or the universe through these states of consciousness. A lot of people went through this program. We're talking about thousands. They didn't experience adverse effects, as far as I have seen from his books. So his books are, for example, Far Journeys, or The Ultimate Journey, or Journeys Out of the Body, and his name is Robert Monroe, with OE at the end. Then there's at least one more group that I know of that is organized by a Russian researcher called Michael Raduga. He has a whole method and a school. He holds seminars over, say, 2 or 3 days. They always include at least 1 or 2 nights, of course, because people bring their mattress and they practice in order to achieve an out-of-the-body experience. And again, there are no dramatic case of casualties involved or people having incredible accidents. So I have reason to believe that if you feel like venturing into the astral world, you are able to do that safely. If, on the other hand, you feel that you don't want to do that, you have a certain feeling of uneasiness and it doesn't feel right to you, well, I would say follow your intuition. Maybe for you in particular, there's a reason why this is not safe and is not advisable. So you may also find stories of people that have encountered strange beings while between sleep and awake. So it is not impossible to have a strange encounter, but it is also to be taken into account that basically every night we go into the astral world, and what we meet or do not meet, not something we can avoid by simply stopping sleeping or not closing our eyes ever. Because if the astral world is at the place where we go when we sleep, the fact that we go consciously should be a help towards a better experience rather than a worse one. And being awake in the astral is sort of similar to being present and remembering yourself in the physical world. That is, you have a more opportunity to control what happens and to not surrender to the first mechanical stimulus that happens to go through your centers, that is mind, feelings, and body. It is also possible, on the other hand, that if you are awake in the astral, you may emit a certain light, and this makes you more visible to whoever is able to see this sort of light of consciousness. So it is not completely impossible, it is theoretically possible that being awake on the other side draws some attention towards you. So all of this taking into account, Of course, the decision is your own. If you feel attracted and you don't feel a particular reason to fear, then of course you will try. Otherwise, you will leave that for another moment or life. I have seen a message. So Johan has mentioned another group, Bruce Moen. Thank you, Johan. Is that like a school for astral projection?
It's someone who's following in the lead of. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's someone who follows in the lead of Monroe, but he has his own approach. It's not a real he has courses, and I met him once in Denver. He's a really nice man, and I don't know how far he's still doing it. It's I must say I had read Monroe's books, and at one point I thought this is he and his wife. I think at that time, I'm talking about 25 years ago. So I think he's still doing it. And I don't know if he's really a group like, I think he's comparable a little bit with Monroe, not with the others. So he offers courses, he did courses, but it's not, as far as I remember, not a real a group. And I think he first learned from Monroe as well. So Monroe was his, he just developed it, and he became a sort of, well, colleague, if you want, and just mention him because I know he has quite a lot of information. If you type him, I forget the name of his. Well, if you type Bruce Moon, it's a rather unusual name. If you type it in Google or whatever,
yeah,
you'll find information.
Thank you, Johan. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so as we are about half an hour into our conversation, and I don't want to go too long, and there's things I'd like to also mention on Sunday. Maybe what we can do is stop our introductory part and then exchange some experiences, which I'm sure everybody will have. So let's conclude our recording here.